Hello there and welcome to the video. I'm Fidemaster Ingvar Johansson from Iceland. And yet again we have a Hans Niemann game. It's hard to navigate chess these days without staying relevant to the topic that is under discussion, which is this continued feud, if you will, between Hans Niemann and Magnus Carlsen. And this is one of the most recent wrinkles in the case. Max Warmerdam is playing this game. He has the black pieces against Hans Niemann, and this was played in Prague in June of this year, 2022. And this was a third game between Max Warmerdam and Hans Niemann. They had previously played in January of 2021, a game which was drawn, where Hans had the white pieces, and then Max had won in August of 2021. So during the interview, there was an interview in Dutch. He mentioned that he found that Niemann had improved tremendously there compared to the other two games. In the other two games he was making some mistakes, but this one he played fantastically at times and defended almost perfectly in a line with that Max had prepared, a dangerous line, good preparation, and seemingly Niemann was kind of finding all the best defensive moves over the board. So I found the moves that we used for each move, so we can use that information to you have a look. So again, in this interview, at no point did Max directly accuse Niemann of anything. So this is just speculation. We're just looking at what people are talking about, and hopefully this can help you to reach your own conclusion. But let's just dive into the game. So like I said, Hans with the white pieces, and the other one with d4. And the first few moves, we're just going to move through pretty quickly. Knight c3, c5, we have the tie rush, and Max plays this dangerous gambit here, c takes d4, where black gambits a pawn. Queen a4 is considered the best move. Bishop d7, queen takes d4, e5, queen takes d5, and knight f6. I believe this is called the Hennig-Schara gambit. White goes back with the queen to d1, bishop c5, and this is we can reasonably guess that both players knew what was going on up to here. Knight f3 played by Hans, and for all his moves up to this point he has been using 1 minute or less, like 1 minute and a few seconds or less. Meanwhile, Max has been playing relatively quickly, using under 1 minute for all his moves, and it's pretty clear that Max has something prepared. So Max casuals. You can mention that there was a game earlier in 2022 between Le Quang Liem and Magnus Carlsen, where Magnus went for knight c6. That game ended in a draw. But here we have the first think of the game, and Hans Niemann thinks for 8 minutes and 33 seconds. Now the most common move is e3, but not far behind is a3, which is now the top move, as you can see on depth 26. I think a3 and e3 will go back and forth, but you saw at some point a3 was the best move, and that's indeed what Hans played. Sometimes when you make a move and go back, the move that was played will increase in strength. So right now, it's still a top move, but like I said, a3, e3, up for debate. So we can say the top engine move, give or take, depends on how much depth you're using. Knight c6, this was played in 3 minutes. So my guess is that after Hans thought, for 8 minutes, most likely Black is thinking, okay, he doesn't know this line. or his knowledge has run out. So he's trying to evaluate, trying to remember, or just trying to play moves on his own. And the first thing for Max here, and he spends 3 minutes, and this could be him actually spending 3 minutes. It could also be him just having gotten up from the board and then making a move, which is quite possible since Hans Niemann started thinking. But 3 minutes here, that's e6, and relatively quickly, bishop g5 is a tough move at a reasonably low depth. Bishop f4 will get there as well. But okay, right now, depth 22, bishop g5, and he's pretty far ahead right now, so probably the best move, h6. So Hans spent a minute, just under 2 minutes on bishop g5. h6 was played relatively quickly, relatively quickly, around 3 minutes, and white takes on f6, which is reasonably far ahead at low depths, at depth 20. So still a tough move, but then bishop h4 takes over. But you did notice, at some point bishop takes f6 was a tough move. So I'm mentioning this because we're just trying to build a scenario where if there's cheating, there might be an accomplice, and we don't know how strong the accomplice is. So at some point the tough move could be suggested. Just to throw it out there, not just to take everything into account. But okay, bishop takes f6. I think if we keep the computer running, Stockfish 14 and 15, they will prefer bishop h4. But okay, takes is reasonable, especially since g takes f6 looks like the move, since if you take with the queen, which Max did after only 8 seconds, the bishop on d7 will hang. So when your opponent plays queen takes f6 after 8 seconds, you start to worry. We are up a pawn, but black is castled and he has got all his pieces out, and the path for the rooks is, it's quite easy, wherever you want to place them, c8, d8 or e8. Meanwhile, the king is not castled, and we still need a few moves. So black definitely has compensation. So the question is, do we dare to take on d7? Well, Hans did. He took on d7, played queen takes d7. It should be mentioned that this hasn't been played a lot. Only a few games have reached this position, but this was clearly Max's preparation, because in 34 seconds he plays rook after d8. So it seems like knight c6 and h6 were a bit of a bluff. He spent 3 minutes on those moves, but then after Niemann took an f6, it was like, I got you, queen takes f6 after 8 seconds, make your move. So rook f d8, and now another decision for white, and Hans Niemann took 14 minutes and 33 seconds, which is probably reasonable. As you can see, there aren't a lot of reasonable moves. The queen doesn't have a lot of squares. First of all, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Doesn't bring the queen back. It gives us a tempo with rook on c8 if and when we need it. It doesn't do much for the position. So either we pull the queen back, or we go full on, Pac-Man mode and eat everything. As you can see, queen g4 is taken over as a top move, and that's what Hans played, queen g4. But okay, he spent 14 minutes and 33 seconds, so there's stuff to calculate, and probably he at least looked at queen takes b7, but what's going on there? Rook a to b8. But still, this is something we should look at, okay, if the queen has to move to a6 or c7, we take on b2, and then everything is undermined. We have no development, and we probably lost. But knight e4 is a strong move. But with your opponent playing fast, this all must look a bit scary, and you would probably have to sacrifice your queen here. Something like this, b8. And while this looks scary, might be playable for white. I mean, black is definitely, I think most people will take black here. just because of the lack of development for white and the lack of coordination. But white isn't too far away from consolidating, and if he can, then he's doing okay materially. Actually, more than okay, but he's still a few moves away from that. So probably he spent some time on that, but I would be scared, and probably he was as well, if he was playing on his own. If he was not, then it's all irrelevant, and Queen G4 is the top answer move. But if you're scared, you might find that as well. So make up your own mind. Queen G4 and Knight E5 played in 4 seconds, all of 4 seconds. So definitely Max is still in preparation. Now we don't have a lot of choice here. Obviously we can't take this, and it would be nice if my computer woke up and then took on E5, and it does. And now we have a pleasant choice: bishop takes F2 and queen takes F2, which both mate in 1. The other choice would be to centralize the queen, which is generally a good choice. But once we put that on the board, and again my computer is playing a few tricks on me. Where is it? Yeah, if you play Queen E4, then Queen B6 is very annoying because we have pressure on B2 and F2, and this is a little bit too much to handle for white. So once we figure that out, the only move that remains is Queen G3, and it took Hans 6 minutes and 51 seconds to play Queen G3. And again, in under a minute, 43 seconds, Queen B6 lands on the board. And here, again, not a lot of choices. B4 looks a little loosening because you're well undermining your own knight on C3. You're not doing anything for development. Looks shaky. Rook D1 is possible, but you hang the B2 pawn. So I don't know, 3 minutes and 8 seconds, Rook B1. And this has been reached in 2 other games. One game between players around 2350 and one correspondence game, and both times white went with Rook B1. So Rook B1 played 3 minutes 8 seconds, and again Max Rook A to C8, excellently prepared to 5 seconds. Again, I would be scared, white is up a piece and a pawn, but still no development, and black is playing very confidently. But again, what to do? And Niemann took 12 minutes and 14 seconds. As you can see, the top move is E3, and as we let the depth continue to rise, E3 will be the top move. But if you reach this move for the first time and you're trying to figure the details out, of course you're going to look at taking on E5. Well, there are 2 ways to do that, but one of them just loses instantly, obviously. With the rook covering the D file, this is just checkmate. So knight takes E5 is the only reasonable alternative. Black will take on A3. B takes A3 is not possible, of course, on account of queen takes and mate on C1. A nice variation, just to show why white can't take on A3. But he can play F4, making love to the king. And this shows, this is good preparation, because Max is black here, and in many lines, when we enter this, black has an easy draw if he wants. For instance, here, rook takes C3, it's one line. This takes B2, but could be played as well. But let's have a look at rook takes C3. Yeah, please, thank you. B takes C3. And this is relatively forced. Bishop C5 check. We interpose. Rook D2, and then this funky little perpetual Queen D1, King E4, Queen B1, etc. So it seems like in most lines black has a draw in hand. But okay, again, Hans finds the best move, the computer move, e3. Although it's logical, you do want to get this bishop out and get castled if you can. The alternatives didn't really promise much. But again, bishop takes a3 and 34 seconds. Max is playing very fast here. Now Niemann took 18 minutes and 58 seconds. And understandably so, because, well, you have some choices. You can try to play bishop e2, play solidly, get your pieces out, get castled. Black has to play well here. Probably take on f3 and c3, but then white castles. And probably Max was happy with that. You can see the computer says 0.0. We can take on e5 in two ways. So white has to calculate that. Queen takes e5. But again, a line like this, black is quite happy. We actually get the piece back, more or less by force. If rook b1, which looks more natural than bishop c3. So let's get rook b1, and bishop c3 wins the piece. We take with the rook first, and then rook d8 win the piece, and black is actually better. So instead of rook b1, you would have to take the pawn on b7, but still we win the piece, check, and here. And we would have to make Luft. Rook takes d2. And, well, black is not worse. So obviously, again, good preparation, and then black is happy in a number of these lines. Knight takes e5, bishop takes b2. Here white would have to find the ridiculous king e2. Knight d1 puts him in, knight d1 for instance. He's basically made it after queen a5. So you'd have to find king e2, which is hard to find. And then white would have to find again queen f4. I don't know why. And if I saw this, I would be like, okay, that's sus, you know. King f3, and the game goes on. Should be equal according to the computer, but black is not worse, which is the most important thing. Excellent preparation. So white is finding all the moves. So all the captures simply don't work. Knight d1, too passive, so bishop b5 at the end of the day is the best move. Which took about 90 minutes to find, which is, if this game is clean, logical time management. And now probably bishop takes b2 was played in 3 minutes and 49 seconds. Well, probably it was played. And once again, okay, white has a choice here. It's about equal. If we keep the computer running, castles will take over, and that's what Niemann played in 3 minutes and 43 seconds. But at this point, I don't have the time for the moves anymore. It seems like the broadcast had some delay or something, because now the time for each move, well, it's not visible anymore on chess 24. But now the knight on e5 is hanging, so black has to take care of that. And it takes on f3, and we have a forced continuation here. Black has to recuperate the lost material. Rook takes e3, and should get that on the board pretty soon. Rook takes e3, and okay, now we see the point of bishop b5. It was to, well, block the b file. And it means we can take on a b2 after rook takes e3, which we finally get on the board. A bit of lag here on my chess base. But of course, the rook on b2 is undefended, so a6 wins the piece back for black. And the first time I looked at this this position, I was not using Stockfish 15. And queen takes f7 was not the best move, but here it is indeed the best move. I looked at this on a phone, and then queen h5 was the best move. But once again, Niemann is finding the best moves. I mean, this is not rocket science. Either we win the pawn on f7 or the pawn on a pawn on the queen side. By playing queen h5, you take on a6 and we win the a pawn. It's still 4 against 4, but okay, queen takes f7 at least gives us a passed e pawn, but it does leave black with connected passed pawns. So forced moves, so not much use in looking at those. Bishop c4 takes and rook takes b6. Black has to defend and rook fb1. So white is banking on the fact that he's keeping the connected passed pawns on the queen side onto lock and key, and black has to defend. Rook c to c7, defending the pawn. So this is the first time that Niemann goes off the top move. So g4 is in third place right now. I don't think that will change. It's not too far off, but it's the first time in a while that a move is played that is not the top move. But now it's number 2, back to 3. It's around there though. But I will say that g4 is a relatively human move. You're grabbing space, and it's a very common move in rook endgames, where you're trying to both grab space and stopping your opponents from stopping you from grabbing space. Very often black will play h5 if he can, stopping you from playing g4. So g4, a human move, but still it's up there. It's top 3. Okay, king e8. Logical, because we want to put the king on c8, and on c8 it will protect the pawn on b7, which is kind of weak. So we can at least free one rook. So black's next 3 moves make sense. King e8. Now king g2 by white, which was the top move for a while. It is now. King g2, king d8, and h4. And this was not on the radar of my previous stockfish, but this one says h4. Again, a space gaining move, but once you see all these top engine moves, you start to question things. And now rook 1 to b3. I will play the move and then go back, because very often that helps the computer. And when I was looking at this previously, rook 1 to b3 was gaining in traction previously tremendously. Okay, now it's in the top 2. Going down again. Now things are equaling out. Rook 1 to b3 should be jumping to number 2. And again, things are equaling out. And now rook 1 to b3. It was for a split second there, it was the top move, 0.22. But now it goes down. But okay, but rook 1 to b3, as the move was played. In a sense, it's logical. White wants to defend the base on e3, because at some point he will push pawns and play f4. Okay, still rook c4. f4 right now, the top move. But okay, also logical, you want to push a majority. And black figures he can't stay passive, so he pushes a5. Truth be told, black is playing pretty good as well. So let's not take that away from black. But most of the game he was in preparation, so it's less suspicious to be honest. And nobody at any point is accusing Max for this game, except for one guy on Reddit. But he was kind of making a point that why is white being accused and not black? Okay, but white keeps playing very good moves. Rook 6 to b5 attacks the pawn, pushes it to a4, and rook a3, the top move. Although it looks like basically more or less the only move. And rook d6. And this is kind of the only spot for a long while where white doesn't play the best move, or one that is very close to it in evaluation. As you can see, rook a5 is giving white half a pawn. It will go down. The evaluation will go down, I think, once we get at a deeper depth. And king e3 is the second move here, but maybe if the depth gets deeper, it's closer. But king f3 was played. King c7, but now he plays rook a5. And the engine is saying it's close to winning at the moment. Rook a5. We want to win the a-pawn. If we win the a-pawn, we're doing tremendously. When you have a majority of 2 pawns on one side of the board, on the king side, against a lone pass pawn, I think that tends to be winning. I learned that out the hard way once when I had an a-pawn against this 4 against 2 on the king side, and I lost against Grandmaster Peterson, a very instructive game for me. So Max doesn't want to lose the pawn, so he puts rook a6. And it's a slightly better situation because we have a double pawn, but still it looks like the 4 against 2, you know, the 2 pawn majority against the 1. The double pawns don't seem to mean too much at the moment. And now white plays rook to d3. At first glance, e4 seems to be completely winning at the moment, giving a 3 pawn advantage versus rook d3, which is giving 1. But if I play the move and go back, I think rook d3 will go up. And when I had this previously, rook d3 was relatively close. So it might take a while for the moves to catch up, but when I was looking at it earlier, it was up to like 2, rook d3, e4 was around 3, and I was thinking, okay, if I was suggesting moves, I didn't want to always, you know, recommend the top move as an accomplice. Then you know what, maybe you recommend the second best move. The difference right now, it's much higher than I had previously. I don't know why, but okay, rook d3 was played, rook d3, king b6, and now white starts pushing e4. Again, e4 is right there at the moment, the top move, so e4 is played, and rook c1. And unfortunately for black, this e-pawn is very strong. Now the computer says rook e1 here, and we have a fighting chance in this game, but black wanted to push his own pawn. The problem is his rook becomes tremendously passive. White can play rook e3 and a3. And I saw another discussion online where Max was saying that Hans wasn't aware of the Vancouver position. The Vancouver position is a position where you are defending against a lone pawn on a rook file. And the setup is similar to this. You know, the king will be on g file, the rook on the f file, and it's very hard for the pawn to make progress because you just attack it, and the rook kind of can't move. And white is kind of using that technique to be able to push his own pawn here. King e4. So now the king can't be checked, so it means the rook is passive, and if the rook moves, you lose the a-pawn. You can go to a2, but I just continue rook e2, attack the pawn. And now the white e-pawn is just too strong. e6, king c7, king e5, and the king still has shelter. There's no rook e1 to give a check. The king has excellent shelter. King d8, and now we have 2 connected pass pawns. And sadly, the rook on a1 just can't move. We take on a2, and we keep our 2 pawn advantage. I mean, well, the 2 connected pass pawns, not a 2 pawn advantage, even though after we win the pawn on a6, it is a 2 pawn advantage. But the 2 connected pass pawns are just too strong. f6, king f8, e7, and what to do? King d6. We're going to try get a new queen here. Not much to be done. And in fact, Max resigned here. So I thought, you know, in and of itself, regardless of everything that's being said, I can't speak anymore. I don't know why. In spite of everything that's being said, that what, depth 130? Somebody has been looking at this position at depth 130. Parham Maksudlu. Maybe we accidentally discovered the accomplice. In chess space, you see actually, which is off screen right now for you, but you can see, you know, if the position has been analyzed before, and you can see the depth. So I see depth 55, Houdini 3, says mate 9, depth 130, Stockfish says mate 9, and it says discovered by Parham Maksudlu. Interesting. Maybe I accidentally discovered something. The plot thickens. And and I can't remember my train of thought actually. So I think we can put an end to this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I thought it was a game I wanted to look at. Like I said, regardless of what's being said, it was an interesting game in and of itself. But in the spirit of what's being discussed, I think it adds. Or, yeah, what do you think? Does it add some fuel to the fire, or is there nothing to see here? Sauce or not? You tell me. So see you in the next one. I'm preparing the next video, and of course we're continuing with the Hans Niemann saga, and we will see you then. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.